National Signing Day is coming up this Wednesday. Who's going to be Michigan's head coach? We got Justin Rowe on the line from Stadium and Main podcast. So join Justin just on Twitter, Justin Rowe 92. And then you can follow him to Stadium and Main podcast. Justin, how you doing today?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. Ready to continue the saga that is Jim Harbaugh at Michigan, and want to remind everyone to like, comment, share the videos on social media, and please subscribe right here. Hit that bell for the notifications. That way you know when we're going live, which is typically multiple times per day. All right. If you want a deep dive into Jim Harbaugh and the saga week to week, of course, join Justin on his Stadium and Main podcast, but also our various segments here as we have talked Jim Harbaugh
every week.
I would want to use a certain term, but it's good. People love it. People want to hear more, and maybe there's more to it. But maybe the most weighty and relevant, tangible news and reports we had were last week when you were citing John Bacon and others in regards to the offer that was made to Jim Harbaugh regarding a contract extension, incentive-laden, that there were NFL teams also coming after him. But as it stands right now, Jim Harbaugh is at Michigan, and he has made a pledge that he is committed to the University of Michigan.
Yeah, so after everything went down last week, which was all still rumors, there was nothing confirmed by the university in terms of a contract situation, but that situation was reported that Ward Manuel in the athletic department did offer Jim Harbaugh a contract extension of 3 years, and now it's in his court. Well, we're still in that. That's about all we have. Still. So it's still a lot of silence from Michigan on that end. But finally, we did hear some other things from Jim Harbaugh, not straight from his mouth, of course, because he doesn't want to talk to the media at this point. But from Sam Webb, who was talking to recruits and hearing some things that Jim Harbaugh, what he's saying to recruits at this time in the 21 class, is that he is committed to Michigan, always has been, always will, that whole thing. And so he's saying, yep, that's the truth. That's the truth, which to me is a little interesting. If you can say that to a recruit, I'm not sure why you couldn't say that to the media in a press conference last week. And I understand Jim Harbaugh is not a great media guy. He's not willing to reveal a ton, and he doesn't have to. But what good does it do for Michigan and this team if that truly is the truth? What good does it do to not reveal that to the media and the fans and the public? So it's still an interesting situation where we don't know a ton, and it's all being done behind closed doors. So there have been also some reports of, and it's so tough because there are just reports, and everyone's got a source, and so nothing's confirmed. But there are reports that things are not going well behind the scenes right now with Michigan, involving assistant coaches and some players wanting to transfer, as well as parents of players not happy and trying to have conversations with Harbaugh and some of the coaching staff. So in terms of a PR thing from Michigan's perspective, it has not gotten any better. It's all there is rumors out there, and they're getting, they're spreading like wildfire, of course, as they always do, especially with Jim Harbaugh.
And if you're hearing that much, you can only imagine what the players themselves at the high school ranks, because they've got their nose to the ground and they've got their sources that are actually football players that know football players, and they've got a full network from social media and direct contact where they hear even more detailed feedback than what we then hear as kind of a secondary type deal. Got Justin Rowe on the line talking Michigan football, Jim Harbaugh, and of course the Wolverines National Signing Day is coming up on Wednesday. So obviously this has huge ramifications. A student athlete wants to know who the head coach is going to be. The relationship's built mostly with position coach, but you want to know who's leading the program and how much trust that you have in that person's ability to lead a winning football team. So what are the ramifications that you're hearing both on the good and the negative side in regards to commitments?
Yeah, so I would say pretty surprisingly, that a lot of this class is still saying that they're committed. I know that there are a majority of guys that have been committed. Giovanni El Hadid is a big lineman that was actually the first commit in this class, and he just put it out on Twitter that he can't wait to sign on signing day to Michigan. There have been a number of guys that have come out on social media and said, I'm committing and signing on Wednesday, no matter what the situation is with the coach. And that includes JJ McCarthy, the 5-star quarterback, who, of course, Michigan has a hyped up quarterback coming in as usual. But he is a huge piece to that recruiting class and has been for Michigan. So having him stay committed is huge as well. There was Brandon Jennings. He has received a crystal ball. He was committed. He still is committed to Michigan, has received a crystal ball flip to go to Maryland now. So that was a little bit odd to see. Yeah, that was kind of the one big one that has flipped, and there really haven't been anybody else that has come out and said something as far as decommitting or anything like that. So they are still in the lead, according to Sam Webb, for Donovan Edwards, who's the #1 running back in that class as well. So that would be a huge land for Harbaugh and for Jay Harbaugh and Gaddis as the offensive coordinator too. So in terms of recruiting, surprisingly, it's still going well, which makes you think, oh, well, maybe there is a deal and everything is actually done on the back end, and he's telling people that, he's telling recruits that, but it's just kind of a crapshoot to the public facing. But it is pretty surprising how well they've been able to keep that class together, even though through a bad season and through all of this going on.
Holding up well as verified by Rivals and 247 Sports. I'm looking at it right now. We've got Rivals at number 8, 247 Sports number 2 in the Big Ten, number 9 overall with 21 commits, 1 5-star, of course, the quarterback, 11 4-stars, and 9 3-stars. If Michigan can hang on to it as we approach Wednesday in the National Signing Day, that is proven now in a third year. I don't believe this is a fourth. I believe the third year of a first an initial National Signing Day in December that precludes the February that has turned out to be about 85% of the top 300 to 500 players sign here in December. Got Justin Rowe on the line talking Michigan football. The Wolverines have a game on Big Ten Championship weekend, but it is not the Big Ten Championship against Iowa. So this whole seeding process really broke down in the Big Ten. So it was supposed to be fall in line 1 through 7. You've got the championship game, and then 2 and 2 play, 3 plays 3. But the Big Ten, and it's understandable, wants to make sure that these rivalry games that were missed, aka Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the Old Oaken Bucket with Indiana and Purdue, are played. Therefore, the seedings are out the window, and suddenly Michigan, I don't have the standings in front of me, somewhere around 5th or 6th in the Big Ten Western Division, depending on, everybody seems to have 2 wins.
Yeah,
pretty much what the Big Ten looks like, but should be playing somebody else. But it suddenly turns out to be not just the number 2 seed, but maybe the best team in the Big Ten Western Division. They've certainly ripped off 6 consecutive wins and look that part in playing Iowa, Justin.
Yeah, this was out of left field completely.
On the road.
On the road, yeah. So for a Michigan team that is really struggling, obviously, and has not looked like they've played a good game since the first week of the season, now has to go on the road to an Iowa team who has been on a roll. And so for Michigan, that's a tough draw. There's no other way to put it. From the Big Ten's perspective, I get it. Yes, the season went not how you thought it would, but I don't know how you thought it would go because everything was going like crazy. So they should have just said, we'll figure out the matchups at the end and, do whatever we need to do instead of saying 1 versus 2 and 2 or 3 versus 4 and things like that. It's a good theory, but doesn't work if you're trying to get certain games in, obviously. So now Michigan, who's the second worst team in the Big Ten East, plays the second best team in the Big Ten West. And so it's a little odd. I'm not sure why Michigan isn't playing a Nebraska or something like that. There are a couple teams other than Iowa that they still could have played, and it would have made more sense. But it's no doubt tough game. I mean, they're going to be, I believe the first thing came out and it was Iowa was 14-point favorites, which honestly I thought it would be more in the 17 or 18 range or going towards 3 touchdowns because of the way Iowa has looked lately. And Michigan obviously hasn't played a game in 2.5 weeks now. But yeah, so going on the road, 14-point underdogs, and still don't know who your quarterback is, don't know the coaching situation and everything. And so it'll be interesting, as well as going into Iowa playing on December 19th. It's going to be chilly. I haven't looked at the weather quite yet, if there's snow or anything going on, but it's not going to be 65 and sunny. I know that for sure. So yeah, I think that this is, not ideal for what Michigan was looking for in terms of a championship weekend game in the beginning, let alone now after everything that's gone on.
Iowa's not the type program or the type team typically, I'll underline that word, that typically throws up like 50 or 60 on anybody. But when they're playing well like they are now, this has like 31-7 written on it, something like that. Because, man, they play great defense. They're on a roll, like you mentioned. And although they don't have anything tangibly to play for, but when a team's on a roll like they are, they won 6 straight, they could get to a really good bowl game if they win this game. And just to depict how close they are to actually playing in Indianapolis this weekend, they led Northwestern 17-0, lost 21-20. They're 1 point away from playing in the Big Ten championship game. And again, they've risen high in the college football rankings. 16 last week should make it another few spots up the charts this weekend. And they're really good with Goodson and Sargent at running back. Just a different... It's only been a little over a year, Justin, and we've got a much different feel than when the Hawkeyes visited Ann Arbor like last October, November, and Michigan won that game 10-3 with Nathan Stanley at quarterback for Iowa. Yeah,
definitely. And obviously Michigan was a lot different team last year when they did that. But that defense, the defense that held Iowa to 3 points last year is not going to hold. I can tell you with a lot of confidence that they are not going to hold them to 3 points this year. I think that what Michigan has really struggled with lately because of the injuries to the defensive line and linebacker core is against the run. And so I imagine that Iowa is going to just try to pound the ball as much as they can until Michigan can stop them. And, Wisconsin did the exact same thing and ran for over 350 rushing yards. Since then, they've only had 2 touchdowns, I believe, in their last 7 quarters or something like that. So it's kind of a crazy thing for Michigan. It's not going to be the matchup in terms of defense versus offense and offense versus defense does not look good for Michigan because their defense is really good. And I don't think that Michigan will be able to establish the run with their offensive line still struggling, as well as what was the starting center, Zach Carpenter, has entered the transfer portal in the last week. So I don't believe that he'll play in this game, which was interesting timing as well, seeing as they still possibly had 1 game on the schedule. But I don't see Michigan really doing a whole lot on offense because the struggles that the offensive line are going to see against Iowa's front 7. And then on the defensive side, I have to imagine that Iowa is going to do pretty much whatever they want to do running the ball. And then, of course, how they always just, pound, and then take 1 shot or dink and dunk down the field with fullbacks and tight ends and things like that. So, in terms of a matchup, Michigan doesn't have many advantages, I would say, at any facets of this game.
Yeah, I've seen quite a bit of Iowa football this year, as I typically do. And based on what I've seen, I think the one hope would be their first-year starter, Spencer Petras, is a bit scattershot, but he's gaining confidence and gaining reps and getting better by the week. So he was a bit shaky early when they lost their first 2 games. And lo and behold, they've won 6 consecutive, relying, as you said, on the run. And the Iowa formula is to let him throw it, 20 or 22 times, but rely on that running game for about 45 snaps. And that's the way they win. They just beat a quality Wisconsin team. I don't care what their record is. They're still a good team. They are beat up, but man, 28-7 beat them by 3 touchdowns. It was a close game, one of these defensive struggles. And then the dam broke in the 4th quarter and they just beat them down. And that's what they've been doing week in, week out. The rankings to a certain extent, I think, are as invalid as they've ever been because of the lack of games and the lack of non-conference games. But I do think that this Iowa team is a legit top 15 team in the nation. And yeah, we'll see what Michigan's got. So based on the personnel issues in terms of who's been unable to play in recent weeks, of course, not playing 2 consecutive weeks, do you have any kind of feel or indication of who might be on the field Saturday?
It's really tough because Michigan has not revealed anything. Like, they haven't revealed anything in terms of Jim Harbaugh, but they also have not revealed anything in terms of the quarterback situation. The last thing we heard was Cade McNamara, in the Penn State game, it was his right shoulder. Nothing came out in terms of an official injury report on that. He was able to throw a little bit in that game, so it didn't look like it was anything broken or torn, but it just looked like it was tight. So we will see about that. I don't know if Cade McNamara will be the guy that trots out there on Saturday, but I also don't know if it'll be Joe Milton either, and that's for a couple different reasons. There were reports that he was banged up and not able to play. That if they were to play against Ohio State this past weekend, but also just because he hasn't played well, and Michigan might say, you know what, Joe, I'm sorry, but we're going to check out the freshman Dan Villari, who was the 4th string in August, and see what he can do, because he's not anything special, but he has shown some things on tape and in practice that I think has impressed the Michigan coaching staff. So who really knows at the quarterback position? I do know Kwity Paye will be available because he was available against Penn State, but I'm not sure on the linebacker core because Cam McGrone was out against Penn State, and Adam Shibley, who is a former walk-on, has been getting reps. Michigan's still banged up. Aiden Hutchinson is not back. We don't know about the offensive line still as well. The last that we knew was Jalen Mayfield was very close. He was practicing, but didn't play against in their last game against Penn State. So I would have to imagine that he might play, but also because of him being a top first-round draft pick, maybe he opts out and just sits it out and goes to the draft. I know Ryan Hayes, the tackle opposite him, was also practicing, and so maybe he will be back as well. That would definitely help this run game and the Michigan offense to establish something there. But yeah, I'm sorry, but I really don't know much, and I don't think anybody does. Even any insiders that I've talked to, nobody's getting any information from anyone right now. A lot of it is just being kept close to Michigan for, a bunch of different reasons, and they are not having much media availability at all. I don't believe Harbaugh came out and said much in his press conference today either. So yeah, we'll see, but we'll see if things come out later in the week. But Michigan is being as about as silent as they could on just about anything coming from Schembechler Hall right now.
And with all those personnel questions, Michigan not playing well most of this season, Iowa's on a roll. Kinnick Stadium, one of the more difficult places to play. Does this,
especially at night?
I was just going to say, does this one get tucked away on the Big Ten Network at noon? No, it's national TV, ESPN, primetime.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that was – nobody ever wants to go play in Kinnick at night, right? And Michigan found that out in 2016 when they went there and got beat by a last-second by a last-second field goal, which kind of ruined their season a little bit, because if they win that game, even if they lose to Ohio State, they still go to the Big Ten championship that year. So not great memories for Michigan at Kinnick and in Kinnick at night. And so now when Iowa is by far the favorite as well, in a cold mid-December, almost late December day, I don't see Michigan faring very well in this one. And the whole universe is going to be watching, of course, like you said, on prime time on ESPN. And so that makes things interesting in terms of the Harbaugh situation, because I still believe, things were okay with Michigan and Harbaugh, and I believed that he would be extended for a while there in the beginning. But then every week that they got beat up and didn't play well on national TV, it seemed like it was worse and worse for Jim Harbaugh. And so they kind of got a pass the last 2 weeks because they didn't have to go out and show that, especially, when Ohio State was trying to hang 100 on them, as Ryan Day said this offseason. So now they have to do it again in primetime, and it'll be announcers and everyone else talking about Jim Harbaugh and speculation and everything like that. And if they get beat, 31-7 or something, it doesn't bode well for then the following week where Ward Manuel and Jim Harbaugh had talked about that's when they'll visit the contract situation and reveal something. So if Michigan goes in, gets beat up by 30 points or something by Iowa, it'll be a weird thing if they then decide to reveal that they're extending him immediately after that.
Talking Michigan football here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please like the video, comment down below, leave your thoughts on Michigan football, subscribe here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, and please check out Justin Rowe's podcast, Stadium in Maine podcast. Justin, we always appreciate the conversation and the insight.
Thank you. Yeah, last week of the year. Hopefully, we have some more to talk about. I know you're on here all year round, right? So there will be plenty to talk about with Michigan, even in the off season. I'm kind of putting it as it might be just like the NBA off season, where sometimes the NBA off season is more fun than the actual season with all the trades and hot seat talk. So that'll probably be what it's like in Ann Arbor this year.